For 27 years, I lived in a prison. It was not 20 years. I lived in a prison of lies and shame. Lying to protect the Lowe family. For years, I thought I was a horrible person having suicidal thoughts, not realizing what had been truly done to me. I was just 16 when you took my virginity on your office floor. Do you remember that? I know you do, and I have plenty of other stories that I could bring to remembrance. You did things to my teenage body that had never and should have never been done. If you can't admit the truth, you have to answer to God. You are not the victim here. I tried to tell someone, but all that was done was cover up. No one ever came to me. No one ever helped me. No one ever got me counseling. I have wanted to talk to somebody all of these years and never. You have. You have somebody that you talk to. I never have. The church deserves to know the truth. This church has been built on lies, but no more. The lies need to stop. I could give story after story after story to what you did to me. Michael, your dad is not the victim here. A partial truth is not true.
She was telling the truth. You better call her a liar.
If I would have gotten counseling, your dad would be in prison.
Let's put up the picture of this brave young woman, okay? I'm going to give you some more context to this. Pastor John Lowe of New Life Christian Church in Indiana confessed to sexual assault decades ago. He called it adultery. He lied about the time frame. He wanted to say it was 20 years ago when it was 27 years ago, making her roughly 14, 15 years of age, okay? When he resigned with this lie, her and her husband came up to the pulpit to correct the narrative. There's more video, here it is.
And I will not let this man talk about my wife like that. It happened for 9 years. When she was 15, 16, the sexual grooming started. And it lasted until she met me and we started dating. This is the truth. And that's all we're gonna say, except just that's it.
We have numbers, you can talk to my brother.
That's fine. This necklace was Bobby's, and it was given to her by Joe Lowe II and possibly other people in the office. They might have received necklaces too as like a ministry gift. I'm not trying to stretch the truth here, but it was in her house and I'm giving it back. This was Bobby's covenant of purity ring, which she wore while this man had sex with her, and she felt ashamed all these years wearing the covenant of purity ring. She felt a lot of shame and guilt. They can't just bamboozle people and just say, well, I just committed adultery. It was far beyond adultery. So here's the covenant of purity ring back. I don't want it in my home. We're done.
I want to remind you that when this sick scumbag announced his resignation from that church, he got a standing ovation from that same congregation, okay? While he was walking out of the church, people were saying things like, "We love you, Pastor." There were members of the church that embraced the true victim here, but there are many who ultimately embraced the monster, okay? Let's put up the picture again. Put up the picture again. You know, I knew I was going to have problems doing this one. I had problems in production. I'm proud of her, and I'm proud of her husband, because this was hard. This was difficult. They were engaged in a system of manipulation and indoctrination like many of us could never imagine. So much so that when he admits to child molestation, the people that raised them, the people that were in charge of looking out for their best interest, decided to take the side of the molester. The video was recorded by someone in the congregation after the live stream of the service cut, so they didn't know this was being recorded. Here's some of the speech before he was confronted. Pastor said, and I quote, "I committed adultery. It was nearly 20 years ago. I continued far too long. It involved one person, and there's been no other, nor any other situation of unbecoming conduct for the last 20 years. I will not use the Bible to defend, protect, and deflect my past sin. I have no defense. I committed adultery. To say it plainly, I didn't make a mistake. I didn't have an issue. I didn't have an affair. I didn't make a misjudgment. I sinned. I need to say that. You deserve to hear it." Okay? While applying church discipline for sexual failure for repentance, confession, and restoration, I myself had not been disciplined for sexual misconduct in accordance with our church bylaws. I'm stepping aside, stepping down from ministry responsibilities. After he did this, he got a round of applause from the audience, okay? From that congregation, gave him a round of applause. The only problem, the major problem, is that he left out the most glaring detail. He actually alluded to them a bit. His story went from confessing to adultery to calling it sexual misconduct. But it went down the path so discreetly, church members may have missed the sleight of hand. Maybe they did not. Even after the victim's brave testimony, and Lowe still downplayed his own evil, he issued another request to the audience to forgive him, not to the victim. Mind you, here's a screenshot of that, okay? Others in the congregation shouted out, "Lowe, we love you." And then the congregation embraced him in a giant group hug and prayer, laying their hands on him. We got an update from yesterday. According to the local news, the county prosecutor confirmed to WAN 15 on Monday that there is a pending investigation into the matter. Additionally, New Life Christian Church World Outreach put out a statement on Pastor John B. Lowe, who has resigned, and it basically says exactly what the pastor said. It downplays the seriousness of what he did and still refers to it as adultery. All right? You know, things like this make me mad. They make me upset, because nobody should have to go through what that young lady went through, and I highly doubt this was the only victim. And so I'm joining that couple and asking for those who have been victims of this monster to step up. He's going to do it again. He's going to victimize others. His power still permeates in that culture of what you call church. All right, there's so much here, but Adrienne, I want you to give us some insight. You have extensive background in this kind of stuff legally and also in the workplace. And this was a de facto workplace. Yeah. She was working in the youth ministry. All right. What are your thoughts?
Well, I'm very, very happy that the prosecutor's office is looking into this and taking it seriously. We do know that the age of consent in Indiana is 16, but it sounds like from the husband's comments that this started at least when she was 15. I don't necessarily know what their statute of limitations are, but I know that a lot of states have expanded them post-Me Too, so people can be held accountable for this type of behavior, because it does seem, without question, he is in a position of power and he abused that power. He sexually assaulted this girl multiple times, and yet he continued to get away with it. Also, the thing is it's never a one-off when we're talking about individuals who do this kind of behavior when it comes to sexual violence. These individuals, this is a behavior, it is a practice. So when he was up there professing to having engaged in adultery 20 years ago, he may not even have been talking about her. He might have been talking about another girl that he had assaulted. Because again, this is a behavior, and I bet that there are others out there, because we have to ask ourselves, why did he come forward unless he was going to be outed? But then again, why now unless there was also someone else? And so that I doubt that this woman is the only individual that he abused, and there are probably multiples of them. But this is also coming off the heels of the Southern Baptist report that just came out this past Sunday, talking more about sexual abuse that permeates the church. The reality is these people are going to churches. They are going to different ministries so that they can hide and conceal their behavior. They need to lose tax exemption status. They need to be in handcuffs, and this needs to end.
Yeah, and they need to go to hell. And I mean that in a very literal way. And this is part of the reason why my faith helps me, all right? Because I do believe that there's an afterlife. That's my personal faith. And I believe in that afterlife. The SOBs who stood up and gave an applause for this monster, they are going to join him.